Our next speaker is Sophia Tidwell. She came to Columbus Academy in 4th grade, and she lives in Newark.
When I was 3, I could recite all of the poem Jabberwocky on cue. Jabberwocky is a nonsense poem by Lewis Carroll about a boy going out to slay a monstrous creature known as the Jabberwock. At age 16, I can still recite all of the poem Jabberwocky, but will not do so, as I've only just started my speech and don't want you all to be falling asleep in your chairs already. Instead, here's a snippet to give you an idea of its contents. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of... excuse me, that's not how it ought to be said. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head, he went galumphing back. I hope this example was sufficient enough to illustrate to you that when I was young, I was a pretty big fan of fantasy. Jabberwocky was only a small part of my childhood entertainment. I also read Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, and whatever else writers with ideas too odd to market to adults decided to put on the library bookshelf for me. Fantasy was what I came back to time and time again, and like many fans of fantasy, I eventually ran into a dilemma. The problem was that nothing fantastic was happening to me. Everything I read said that by the age of, say, 10 to 12, I should have been pulled into a dark alley and given a cursed amulet, or found out that my parents were monster hunters and I had inherited their destiny, or, I don't know, seen something strange in the shadowy woods behind my weird aunt's house. Just something, you know? Instead, at age 10 to 12, I was a kind of quiet kid whose biggest struggle in life was desperately trying to avoid Mrs. Carter on days that I forgot my dress code belt at home. So I was left wondering what exactly was wrong. It couldn't be me, obviously. I mean, I'm clearly perfect. Plus, I'd been doing everything right. I'd been looking for magic my whole life. And I hadn't found any. That was the trouble. The solution soon became clear. If nothing was wrong with me, something must be wrong with the world. Which would mean that I hadn't found any magic because there wasn't any to find. Now, this seemed pretty bleak to a kid who could list and describe all the various types of dragon. If there is no magic world to bleed into our normal one, then clearly normality is all that we have. This mentality is why kids fear adulthood, why they seek to escape the supposedly drab life of the common adult. It grabs you by the shoulders and says, there is no magic. There is only the real world. You must accept it to become a part of it. Now, here's the important bit. It's wrong. Not entirely wrong, true, but the general idea is misleading. It gives the impression that the real world is dull, which is, as I said, completely false. I mean, sure, it's unlikely that I'm going to be swept off to Atlantis on a magical adventure anytime soon. But what really begs asking is what magic really means. It's a hard thing to define when you come to think about it. I think it could go 2 ways. The first way would be to call magic anything outside the realm of the ordinary. For example, anyone would agree that a unicorn is magical. However, if I walked out these auditorium doors and found a unicorn grazing on the senior quad, would it still be magic then? Or would it simply be a newly discovered animal, a new species to study and understand? Would it eventually become just the horned deer that you glance at as you pass by its cage at the zoo? This definition is a paradox, really. Once you bring something magical here, it is no longer outside the ordinary. This is the way that I thought of magic for years, and the definition that led me to my dilemma. Now, the second way that magic could be defined is as anything truly fantastic. I mean fantastic in the way that Merriam-Webster so eloquently describes as so extreme as to challenge belief. In the previous example, I stated that if something magic was brought to our world, it would simply become a new part of reality. Does this mean that magic cannot exist? I would argue no. It means that amazing things already exist all around us. We're so bogged down in the idea that magic is something other that we can't see the small magic right in front of us. If magic is instead defined as anything fantastic, it allows us to escape the idea that magic is unattainable, to see the world as full of incredible things. Take, for example, the Antikythera mechanism. What the heck is the Antikythera mechanism? You ask, or at least you would ask if it didn't interrupt my speech. No worries, I'll tell you anyway. The Antikythera mechanism is an artifact with clearly visible gears found in a shipwreck dated to 100 BCE. Aha, some said when it was discovered. Future technology! This is clear evidence of something really spectacular, like time travel or aliens. When it was examined, however, the device was not found to be extraterrestrial, but that does not make its actual function any less interesting. Instead, the Antikythera mechanism is considered to be the world's oldest analog computer, used to track the stars and other astrological phenomena. The world's oldest analog computer, sitting on the ocean floor for 2,000 years, dredged from the depths in 1901. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that fantastic? My point is, what if magic is really just what we say it is? It's not hard to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, at least not if you keep your eyes open. Our world is often more fantastic than we give it credit for. It's easy to get trapped in the idea that reality is all math homework in the ACT. But remember to look around yourself once in a while. I mean, really, just right here, right now. I'm a collection of constantly vibrating atoms and molecules, standing here talking to you from a hunk of rock, spinning at unimaginable speeds through the vast expanse of space. In the words of Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle's famous detective, life is infinitely stranger than anything which the mind of man could invent. Thank you.